Welcome back to On Texas Football. I'm Jeff Howe, joined by CJ Vogel, live from Royal Texas Memorial Stadium. Texas 27, UTEP 10. We'll break it down here in just a second. First of all, I want to thank our game day coverage sponsors here at On Texas Football. That's Tito's Handmade Vodka, Flight by Yingling and Von Lane. Thank you so much for your support of On Texas Football. CJ, we'll get to injuries. We'll get to stuff that Sark said in the press conference, but your initial thoughts from really when you break it down, it's one of the worst offensive performances we've seen from a Texas offense under Steve Sarkisian.
I thought it was the worst offensive performance we've seen under Steve Sarkisian. They put 27 on the board, but look, it had me thinking back to that Georgia game last year, just here at DKR, thinking, do you need to pull your quarterback just to get him a breather? And the issue is you're not playing Georgia. You're playing UTEP. 10 straight incompletions at one point. I don't think I've seen that from a Texas quarterback in my life. I don't know, Jeff. You might know that more than me. But no, very frustrating day all in all. This was a great opportunity. That's not a bad football team. That's not a team that should have been hanging around in the fourth quarter with this Texas football team. There's too much talent. And look, I know that you're hamstrung not having DeAndre Moore out there. That instead puts you into a running game plan. When CJ Baxter goes down, well, that game plan then gets thrown out the window essentially. But the play all together by the offensive line, by the wide receivers, by the blocking tight ends, by Arch Manning, horrible. That's one where I'm sure, and it's unfortunate because last week should have been the same situation, Jeff, where you just win the game and you move on, you throw everything out the window. I have to guarantee this is one in which that's exactly what they're doing today.
Yeah, this is one where you do take the tape, put it in the trash can, probably put lighter fluid on it and set it on fire. CJ, other than James Simon, who again ran really hard. He did have the Arch fumbled snap that actually went against his rushing yardage total. So he finishes 17 for 67, 3.9 per carry. The freshman running back looked really good. But CJ, other than that, it's some of the same issues we're talking about. 5 for 16 on third down, 2 for 5 on fourth down, 5 for 7 in the red zone with a turnover and a couple turnovers on downs. 4.2 yards per play, CJ. It's the fifth worst yards per play in a single game under Sark. The only games that were worse, and I'm sure they come to mind quickly, Arkansas and Iowa State in 2021, TCU in 2022, and you referenced it, the regular season game against Georgia last year. But CJ, let's start with Arch Manning, 11 for 25 today, 114 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, did have 2 rushing touchdowns. Sark said the postgame, he was asked how much of it is mental with Arch. He said it's all mental with Arch. He thinks, CJ, I don't know if that's good or bad.
I would lean bad. I wish it was something in which his feet could just be shortened up a little bit and that ball doesn't come out with as much juice, or maybe he just needs to take the ball back a little bit more on his windup. And there you go. The ball's getting to his wide receivers. If it's mental, that tells me, hey, he's playing without confidence. You play without confidence, that means you play scared. And when you play scared in the SEC, Jeff, that's when you lose a lot of football games. And if you're in control of this Texas offense right now, they need somebody to be a leader. They don't have that, right? CJ Baxter, again, a little dinged up. Trey Wisner didn't play the last 2 weeks. And the one thing I look back is something Trey Wisner said in a post-game press conference, walking out on the field with Quinn Ewers in Tuscaloosa. You could say every possession he would take the field, he'd say, you're a dog. He'd walk out there in Ann Arbor, say, you're a dog. Go be a dog. Be yourself. I think Texas is missing that right now on that offensive side of the ball. I think we expected that to be Arch Manning. But look, when Arch Manning's staring in the mirror saying, I don't know if I got it today. Is there anybody on this team right now that has that courage or just that confidence to go out there and say, I'm the best player on the field. I need to play like it, and I need to bring the others up with me? Right now, I don't think so.
Yeah, and CJ, I meant good just from the standpoint of, hey, you've identified the problem. The problem therein is that's a pretty big problem when your quarterback. CJ, I was watching it on TV, doing the watch with us here on Texas Football. You were watching it from the press box. Again, I don't know if it's him lacking confidence, if it's lack of confidence in the offense, but you're right. It starts with QB1 and 10 straight incompletions. CJ, it really seemed like the missed shot to Ryan Wingo. They ran the rub concept and sent Wingo on the wheel route on a third down. Arch missed that. The interception the next play. It seemed like that sequence right there, the bottom just fell out at that point.
Yeah, the interception especially, where he's original play to look like it had a chance, doesn't take it to Livingston and rolls back around and he tries to find Wingo again. That to me just screams forcing to it's forcing a square ball or a ball into a square peg. It just doesn't. It's not fitting right now, and Texas is doing everything they can to make it work, and it's just not there. It was nice to see them finally connect on a pass. That was that was the best ball of the day on that goal line kind of switch route there to Wingo. But yeah, it's just the connection's not there yet. And again, this was an afternoon in which I had heard coming in that the focal point of the early game plan was to get Ryan Wingo very much involved, and it wasn't the case. It wasn't the case on really any of the passing games. So for Arch, it's got to be cleaned up. But Jeff, I got to talk to you about this because we go back to Arch and it being mental. Look, I don't want to just throw out the Y word because, look, it brings back bad memories for myself. But at some point, when does it become too much for Arch Manning?
Yeah, that's the thing that none of us really knows. And at this point, and we'll get into this in the days to come, but CJ, I think what Sark and a lot of people, myself included, envision this offense to be, I think you just have to accept after 3 games, okay, it's for a variety of reasons, it's not going to be that. You go back to the drawing board and say, okay, what can you find positive that you can build on to form some sort of an identity, have some sort of a foundation going into the Sam Houston game that you can work on? Because at this point, CJ, that's your last shot to fix things, find an identity, get things right, whatever label you want to put on it. It's your last chance at a dress rehearsal before you get to SEC play, because what happened today, that's not up to Sark standard, the player standard. It's not up to anybody's standard, the offensive product Texas put on the field Saturday.
And here's the deal. Sark mentioned it a little bit in his postgame presser. He referenced that 2023 Wyoming game in which Texas won 31-10. He said, you know what, it felt kind of like that. It's a pretty frustrating day through the air. We kind of just get out of home with the win, and there are similarities there. But altogether, it's very flipped upside down when you compare the two. Texas couldn't get off the field defensively in that game, whereas in this game today, Texas had all the opportunities that they wanted offensively. Great field position. They had short drives defensively to get the offense back out on the field. It wasn't because they couldn't get on the field to go score points, because they were on the field and couldn't move the football to score points. Drastically different, in my opinion. Results look the exact same. The frustration remains the exact same. But we go back to growing pains, and I hate that I'm using those words again because this was supposed to be a big opportunity to move forward, and yet it feels like the Texas offense specifically took several steps back, Jeff.
CJ, the frustration, I think, for me was there was a point in the game at the 8:59 mark of the second quarter. Texas at that point had run 83% of its offensive snaps in UTEP territory, and those 4 drives yielded 1 touchdown, 3 turnovers on down. Sark was asked in the postgame, CJ, hey, do you need to rethink your strategy about being so aggressive on 4th down? He kind of balked at it and said, hey, no, compared it to, a really good shooter in basketball, that if they've missed a bunch in a row, look out because they're about to get hot. CJ, I just don't know right now if this team is built to play football that way. This may be a lot on Mason Shipley all of a sudden, just to make sure once you get to a certain point on the field that you at least get points.
Look, here's the deal. 24 points is all you need if you're Texas against most opponents. Now, will Texas get there? I don't know. That's only, 8 field goals, Jeff? At some point, maybe you're thinking about, can you kick 8 field goals in a day? Because we've seen it time and time again. Texas gets close to the red zone and they cannot score. The 10-yard line is an invisible fortress in which they cannot go further. The 1-yard line is like that on steroids. So, I like the aggression, but at some time you got to sit there and understand that your team is not built to consecutively succeed on 4th down play, do or die plays, because that's just not the personality of this team right now.
CJ, other than the weird chop block penalty on Grayson Littleton and a couple of explosive plays allowed, I want to end this on a positive. You can't ask for more than what the Texas defense is giving you right now. You hold UTEP to 4.4 yards per play, 4 for 13 on 3rd down, 0 for 3 on 4th down. Jelani McDonald and Grayson Littleton finished with interceptions. You get 2 sacks. Zena Azumalo has a sack. Hero Canoe has a sack. 6 tackles for loss. The UTEP run game was pretty much non-existent. CJ, I feel like we've said this for 3 games in a row now. The offense didn't hold up there into the deal, but that was a bang-up job today by Pete Kwiatkowski's defense, CJ, which maybe we saw some changes on the fly just from the standpoint of that unit's getting a little more aggressive and how they were bringing pressure at UTEP. I wonder if, given the offensive struggles, that may be something Texas looks at changing down the road.
I was wondering the exact same thing. I made the joke on Twitter in the middle of the game, Jeff, but this Texas defense has to feel like Jacob deGrom in 2018. You have a 10-9 record as a pitcher, but you lead the league in ERA, and you're saying, what more do I need to do to win ball games? And, well, today was a very frustrating day, again, in which you play a great game defensively, and you're sitting around saying, what more do we need to do to put this game out of reach? And to your point, look, multiple takeaways once again, 6 tackles for loss. I'd like to see that a little bit more, but hey, that's, again, a team that doesn't necessarily live behind the chains offensively, and it's a bunch of different people doing it, right? Jelani got his hands involved. Good to see Grayson Littleton jump a route and get involved as well. So, look, that unit is going to be national championship level good. Now, the biggest question further is, can Texas bridge that gap offensively to at least become a competitive team in SEC play?
CJ, anything on the kicking game real quick? Talk about Mason Shipley. Jack Bomeister got back on track on Saturday, averaged 48.7 yards per punt. Ryan Niblett, 49-yard punt return. Got to set up a couple returns, see what the return game looked like. Other than penalties, pretty good day for the kicking game.
Yeah, I thought Ryan Niblett getting loose on a few of those returns. I need to clean up some of those blocking techniques and, kind of the skate through on the back. It looked like there were some opportunities for blocks in the backs. They were not called, so what's it matter? But good to see that had life, because, again, it's 40 yards in which the offense probably was not going to gain today, Jeff. On top of that, Warren Roberson needs to clean up penalties on punt return, because that's become all too much of a factor over the last 2 years as well. Kicking, punting, I thought went well for the specialist particular.
I did notice in his role as jammer on the punt return team, he was replaced at one point. So I guess that's just a notice to stop committing penalties. Sark said there would be consequences, and maybe that's one of the consequences. CJ, as we get out of here, injury report, no Quintravion Weisner, no DeAndre Moore, no Alex January. We expected that. No Emmett Mosley, no Xavier Filsaime. CJ Baxter leaves early in the game. CJ, after one carry, Sark said it was a hamstring after the game.
Hamstring, doesn't know the severity, which normally I feel like you hear a little bit more of an update from the head coach. Obviously, hamstrings are a little bit different in that regard, but no timetable on how much he'll miss, when he'll be 100%. But hamstrings, that's now 2 running backs atop of the Texas depth chart at the running back position lingering with a hammy.
We were worried going into the game about Jack injuries. Michael Taft, both those guys suited out, played a lot. Also during the game, Cole Hudson and Kobe Black both left at various points. So we'll see in the coming days what's going on with them. CJ, thank you very much for the knowledge and expertise. As always, thank you to Matthew behind the scenes for producing it. Thank you again to our game day coverage sponsors, Tito's, Flight, and Von Lane. If you're not a member, over at ontexasfootball.com, make sure you get over to the site right now. Sign up using the promo code OTFOG. That'll get you 1 year of access for $39.95. Make sure you like this video and that you're subscribed to the On Texas Football YouTube channel. That way, whether it's here on the channel or on the site, you're not missing anything before, during, and after every Texas football game this season. For CJ, for Matthew, for the entire On Texas Football staff, I'm Jeff Howe. Thank you so much for watching and listening, and until next time, hook 'em.